I'm definitely one of the shadows in your life. One of those people you don't even bother to ask if they have a life of their own. You just take a quick look at me and then think about your own daily life. Professionally, family-wise, whatever defines what you call life. However, I also hide a story, the story of my own life. And believe me, I don't think you'll ever experience it. I left my apartment with a big smile on my face. I remember being so happy. The sun was shining, and the garden that had just been tidied up by the gardener was beautiful. The reason I was so happy was because that day I had a date. I finally found a girl I really liked, and from what I understood, she liked me too. She said she would meet me at the cinema, so I headed there. When I saw her, she was stunning, beautiful. She wore a red summer dress with little flowers at the bottom. When she saw me, she spun around smiling at me. Think about it. When she spun around, I thought the flowers and the dress came to life. Unique. She really stood out in the crowd. We both looked at the list of available movies, and I decided to get tickets for the movie Marley and Me. When it was over and we went outside, she told me that she thought it was funny that we both cried so much. I felt it so strongly. I was just holding her hand, but I knew we were both in love. Don't bore you too much, and let's move on to 2 years later. I consulted my best friend Jim about when I should propose to her. He asked me how long we had been together. I told him that it had been 2 whole years, and that tomorrow was our anniversary. So he told me that on the anniversary day, he would give me his car and he would have prepared something special. I took the car and followed the instructions exactly as he had given them to me. He pretended not to know and told us that he didn't expect to see us in the park. We all walked a little together, and when my girlfriend wasn't looking, Jim gave me the ring and winked at me. When we reached the middle of the park, he told us to stay in our seats. So we sat on a bench in front of a bench with flowers. Jim returned with a huge speaker and a microphone. I asked him what he was going to do with it, but he cut me off mid-sentence. He turned the speaker towards the park and began to explain to the audience that my girlfriend and I have been together for quite some time. He also said that I have something very important to announce to her. Then I took off the ring, knelt down in front of her, and asked her, "Will you marry me?" I don't think I've ever heard it faster. Yes, she really jumped for joy. The wedding was a dream. We even bought a house in a quiet neighborhood. In general, you could say that things had taken their course. We were even planning to have children. Imagine, we even put a crib in the children's room. But that night, that damn night, my wife called me to tell me that she would be working late and not to wait up. She called to inform me because she had an important announcement to make that night. I obviously had no problem. I just told her to come back at a reasonable time and that we would arrange dinner the next night. She had been working too much lately. She answered me jokingly, saying, "Okay, Mom." We both laughed. We exchanged love and phone kisses and hung up. Since I had the evening free, I sat down to play a little on the computer. But around 11, I heard footsteps from the kitchen. It seems like my wife had returned, and maybe she wanted to surprise me. I called her name, but there was no answer. I got up and went to check, mostly out of curiosity, but I didn't find anything. As soon as I went to return to the room, however, I saw a figure out of the corner of my eye. I turned around and saw my wife standing across from me. She was wearing a black dress. I was a little scared, to be honest, because she appeared out of nowhere, and I also didn't remember if she had ever worn that dress before. Nevertheless, I calmed down when I realized it was her, but there was something strange about it. Her behavior and her gaze. Her gaze was fixed on the front door of the house. She started walking towards it, but her steps were silent. She made no noise at all, as if she were floating. I called her name, but she didn't turn around. I asked her in a loud voice what was happening, but still no answer. And then, as if the night wasn't strange enough, It got even worse. When she reached the front door, she paused for a second, and then she walked through it. Picture it. I'm telling you, from where I was playing on my computer, I suddenly had to interpret whether this woman in black I saw in my kitchen was my wife or a ghost. It didn't make any sense. And if she really was a ghost, why did she look like my wife? Anyway, I ran to the front door without hesitation. I opened it, but I didn't find much. Everything was normal, and after a few minutes, my phone rang. It was from the hospital. The person on the other end of the line asked me if I was the husband of the woman I had. I confirmed and immediately asked if she was okay. He answered me with 2 dry words, "She's dead." I think my heart stopped beating for a moment. All I could say was a simple, "What?" He repeated that my wife had died. She had a heart attack while driving and crashed into a parked car. When they found her, it was too late. He also told me that I had to go to the hospital the next morning for some procedures and offered his condolences. I hung up the phone and just let it fall to the floor. My brain refused to process what they had heard in my ears. I sat mechanically on the couch. I was staring into space and I started to cry. And then the next moment, my wife was standing in front of me. She was still wearing that black dress. She was looking at me, but her gaze was sad and painful. I asked her why she was here. She told me that she had come to say goodbye to me. She started to cry too. I wanted to wipe her tears away, but I couldn't move my hands. I told her then that she was and would be the most important woman in my life, and that she would be with me forever. She laughed and told me that she knew. I asked her why. A simple why. She only answered me by saying that no one lives forever. I started to cry again. She put her hand on my face and wiped my tears away. Her hand was so soft, I wanted to feel it forever. And then, after she told me she loved me, before I could even say it, she disappeared. I woke up lying on the couch. I glanced at the spot where I had seen her, but she wasn't there. I decided to go to bed to sleep. The next morning, when I woke up, I expected to see my wife's beautiful face next to me, but when I looked, she wasn't there. But it doesn't stop there. When I went to the hospital to fill out the paperwork they wanted, they informed me that my wife was pregnant and that the child was also lost in the crash. This, as you can imagine, made it even worse. When I left the hospital, I went to the park. On the same bench, I sat down and put my hand on her as if I were hugging her, but she wasn't there. It's been a year since then, but every time I walk past the nursery in our house, I think I hear a little girl laughing.